and remembering I'm blessed. I've got a very good eye. I'm just blessed. I've got a great eye.
You know that feeling when you're watching your favourite movie, completely absorbed in the story, and suddenly you wonder, what was it really like behind the scenes? Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter your perception of some of Hollywood's most beloved films. Ridley Scott, the legendary director behind Gladiator, Blade Runner and Alien, isn't just known for creating cinematic masterpieces. He's also built a reputation as one of Hollywood's most ruthless directors, leaving a trail of traumatized actors and burned bridges that spans 4 decades. But here's what's really shocking. This isn't just about a difficult director having creative disagreements. What I discovered after diving deep into decades of interviews, leaked audio recordings, and industry insider accounts reveal something far more sinister. The 7 actors I'm counting down didn't just have bad experiences with Scott. They were systematically destroyed, professionally sabotaged, and in some cases, psychologically broken by a man who treats human beings like expendable props in his cinematic war machine. From explosive on-set meltdowns that required security intervention, to alleged harassment covered up by studio executives, to one actor who was literally erased from film history, this countdown reveals the dark truth behind some of your favourite movies. Number 7, Katherine HEIGL, the preemptive strike that ended a career. Starting our countdown at number 7 is Katherine HEIGL, and here's the twisted part. Ridley Scott destroyed her career without ever actually working with her. It's 2010, and HEIGL is riding high after Grey's Anatomy and successful romantic comedies. She's got that perfect combination of talent and box office appeal that should have made her a shoo-in for major dramatic roles. Then Ridley Scott decided to play God. After HEIGL made public comments criticizing directors and writers, the classic Hollywood sin of having opinions while female, Scott made a calculated decision. During a 2011 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he delivered a surgical strike. There are certain actors who bring more problems than solutions to a set. Katherine HEIGL represents everything I avoid in casting, an actor who thinks they know better than the director. In Hollywood's power structure, when someone of Scott's caliber publicly executes an actor, it's not just an opinion, it's a professional death sentence. Within months, HEIGL's offers for major studio films dried up. Casting directors started passing on her for roles she would have been perfect for. Other directors, not wanting to cross Scott, quietly removed her from consideration lists. The most brutal part? Scott had never even met HEIGL. He destroyed her career based purely on reputation and industry gossip. HEIGL later told Howard Stern, "I went from being offered 3 major studio films a month to my agent telling me that directors were specifically asking for anyone but Katherine HEIGL." Scott had proven his influence extended beyond his own sets. He could destroy careers from a distance, like some kind of Hollywood sniper. Number 6, Sean Bean, Death by a Thousand Cuts. At number 6, we have Sean Bean, and if you think his characters die a lot in movies, wait until you hear how Ridley Scott systematically killed his confidence as an actor. Bean worked with Scott on multiple projects, and each collaboration followed the same sadistic pattern. Scott would hire Bean for his reputation as a serious method actor, then spend months tearing down everything that made him great. The most documented incident happened during filming of one of their period epics. Bean had spent 4 months researching medieval combat techniques, studying historical texts, and learning to forge weapons for authenticity. Scott's response? Public humiliation in front of the entire cast and crew. According to multiple witnesses, Scott stopped a rehearsal mid-action and announced loudly, "Sean thinks he's a fucking historian. I need Boromir, not a university professor. Can someone please remind him he's an actor, not a scholar?" The room went dead silent. When Bean tried to explain his preparation process, Scott cut him off. "Your job is to say the lines and look convincing. Leave the thinking to me." But here's where it gets twisted. Scott then used Bean's humiliation as a directing tool. He would deliberately undermine Bean's confidence before emotional scenes, knowing the actor's vulnerability would translate into more raw, desperate performances. A script supervisor who worked on multiple Scott-Bean collaborations revealed, Ridley figured out that Sean performed better when he was emotionally destabilized, so he made it his mission to keep Sean in a constant state of professional anxiety. You can literally watch Bean's confidence erode across their collaborations. His posture becomes more defensive, his line delivery less certain, his entire screen presence diminished. Bean has never publicly criticized Scott, which in Hollywood terms speaks volumes about the psychological damage. Number 5. Joaquin Phoenix, the method actor who became the victim. Number 5 brings us to Joaquin Phoenix, revealing how Ridley Scott weaponized an actor's dedication in the most disturbing way possible. During Gladiator, Phoenix used intense method acting to portray the psychotic Emperor Commodus. He stayed in character between takes, isolated himself from the cast, and maintained psychological instability throughout production. Scott saw this as an opportunity for psychological manipulation. According to multiple on-set sources, Scott realized Phoenix's method approach made him emotionally vulnerable. Instead of helping Phoenix manage this intensity, Scott began deliberately triggering the actor's instability to capture raw performances. The tactics were calculated and cruel. Scott would schedule Phoenix's most demanding scenes after the actor had been in character for days without a break. He would change dialogue last minute to keep Phoenix off balance. Most disturbingly, he would provoke Phoenix personally during takes, using information about the actor's private life and family trauma. A crew member described these sessions as psychological torture disguised as direction. Phoenix would emerge visibly shaken, sometimes requiring medical attention for panic attacks. But here's the twisted part. It worked. Phoenix's Oscar-nominated performance as Commodus is genuinely brilliant. Scott had literally built a masterful performance on the foundation of an actor's psychological suffering. Phoenix later revealed, "I've never been closer to a complete breakdown than during Gladiator. There were days I couldn't tell where Commodus ended and I began. Ridley knew exactly how to push me past my breaking point, and he did it deliberately." Scott has never shown remorse, describing the process as getting the best performance possible and pushing actors to places they didn't know they could go. Translation: psychological abuse in service of art. Number 4. Russell Crowe, from Gladiator to Enemy. At number 4, we have Russell Crowe, and this betrayal cuts deeper than any sword in the Colosseum. The irony is devastating. Crowe and Scott created one of cinema's greatest collaborations with Gladiator. Crowe won an Oscar, Scott got his biggest hit, and their partnership seemed destined for legendary status. Instead, it became one of Hollywood's most bitter professional divorces. Problems started during Robin Hood. Crowe, emboldened by their previous success, began challenging Scott's creative decisions. He wanted psychological complexity. Scott wanted spectacular action sequences. The breaking point came during a scene where Robin Hood confronts the sheriff. Crowe had prepared an emotionally complex interpretation. Scott's response was brutal and public. "Russell, you're not playing Hamlet. You're playing a guy who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. Stop overthinking it and just hit your marks." Crowe fired back. "Maybe if you spent less time worrying about the next shot and more time understanding the character, we'd have a better film." Scott had Crowe removed from set for the day and reshot the scene with a body double. The real warfare happened in post-production. Scott systematically edited out Crowe's most nuanced moments, reducing his performance to basic action beats. During interviews, he made cutting comments about actors who think they're directors. The final insult came with Gladiator 2. Scott's public statement was professional assassination. "I didn't consult Russell about the sequel. Maximus is dead, and frankly, that's exactly where I want to leave it." In Hollywood terms, that's a declaration of war. Scott was telling the industry he'd rather kill off one of cinema's most beloved characters than work with Crowe again. The tragedy is their collaboration produced genuine magic, but it represents the end of what could have been cinema's great director-actor partnership. Number 3. Kevin Spacey, erased from history. Number 3 brings us to Kevin Spacey, representing something unprecedented in Hollywood history: the complete erasure of an actor from a finished film. When sexual assault allegations surfaced against Spacey during All the Money in the World, Scott faced an impossible choice: delay the release or take drastic action. Scott chose the nuclear option, but here's what most don't know. Scott had been looking for a reason to remove Spacey for months. Spacey's controlling personality and method acting had created toxic atmosphere that went beyond his legal troubles. Spacey challenged Scott's authority from day one. He demanded script changes, questioned directorial choices, and most dangerously, began giving direction to other actors during scenes. The final straw came during a crucial kidnapping scene. Spacey stopped mid-scene and began explaining to other actors how they should deliver lines for maximum emotional impact. Scott's response was ice cold. "Do that again and you're off this picture." Spacey made the fatal mistake of challenging Scott publicly. Maybe you should focus on directing instead of micromanaging every creative choice. When allegations provided perfect cover, Scott didn't just replace Spacey, he obliterated him. He reshot every scene in 9 days with Christopher Plummer. The real brutality was Scott's public statements. He described removing Spacey as liberating and exactly what the film needed. He showed zero sympathy, treating the controversy as creative opportunity rather than human tragedy. Scott seemed to relish the process, giving detailed interviews about how much better the film was without Spacey, how the entire production improved once he was gone. Whether Spacey deserved his fate, Scott's complete lack of empathy revealed something chilling. This wasn't just professional necessity, it was personal satisfaction at destroying someone who challenged his authority. Number 2, Sean Young, the harassment cover-up that shook Hollywood. At number 2, we have Sean Young, revealing the darkest side of Scott's treatment of actors, particularly women who dared resist his control. Young's Blade Runner experience wasn't just difficult, it was allegedly criminal. For decades she's tried telling her story, but Hollywood's power structure kept her silenced. According to Young's detailed accounts, corroborated by multiple crew members, Scott didn't just direct her, he attempted controlling every aspect of her existence on set. When she refused what she describes as inappropriate advances, Scott allegedly began a campaign of professional destruction. The evidence is disturbing. Young claims Scott would deliberately schedule her scenes during the most punishing conditions: freezing rain, 18-hour days, complex technical setups requiring dozens of takes. The psychological warfare was worse. Scott would publicly humiliate her in front of crews, questioning her professionalism, talent, and commitment. He would change dialogue without warning, forcing improvisation while cameras rolled, then criticizing her for being unprepared. Most damaging was Scott's alleged campaign to destroy Young's Hollywood reputation. Young claims Scott told other directors, producers, and casting agents she was difficult to work with, industry code that ends careers overnight. The evidence supports her claims. Young went from promising young actress to struggling for decent roles within 2 years of Blade Runner's release. Directors who'd expressed interest suddenly became unavailable. A former casting director confirmed anonymously. There was definitely a whisper campaign against Sean after Blade Runner. Ridley's people made sure everyone knew she was trouble. In those days, that was enough to kill a career. The heartbreaking part? Despite everything she allegedly endured, Young delivered one of the film's most memorable performances. Her portrayal of Rachel is now considered a sci-fi classic, but came at devastating personal cost. Scott has never directly responded to Young's allegations, but his silence speaks volumes. His refusal to address these claims has allowed them to fester and grow more credible over time. Number 1, Harrison Ford, the Blade Runner war that nearly destroyed both men. At number 1, the most legendary and destructive feud in cinema history, Harrison Ford versus Ridley Scott on Blade Runner. This wasn't just personality clash or creative differences. This was total warfare between two of Hollywood's most stubborn figures, nearly destroying both their careers and one of cinema's greatest films. Ford, coming off Raiders of the Lost Ark success, expected collaboration with a visionary director. Instead, he encountered what he described as a dictator who treated actors like animated props. Scott's approach was methodical psychological warfare. He'd give minimal direction, then explode when Ford didn't deliver exactly what he envisioned. But it wasn't just lack of communication, it was deliberate humiliation as directing tool. The most documented incident happened during the Unicorn Dream sequence. Ford spent hours preparing for what he thought was crucial character moment. Scott filmed 47 takes, then announced to the entire crew that Ford clearly doesn't understand the character. Ford's response was explosive. According to multiple crew members, he threw his script at Scott's feet. "If you want a puppet, Hire a fucking puppet. I'm an actor, not furniture you can move around your set. Scott's reply was ice cold. Harrison, you're being paid $3 million to say lines and hit marks. If you can't handle that, there are 1,000 actors who can. The warfare escalated. Scott would keep Ford waiting hours between setups, then rush him through scenes without preparation. He'd change dialogue last minute, forcing improvisation, then criticize Ford for not being camera ready. Most brutal was Scott's use of other actors against Ford. He'd give Sean Young and supporting cast detailed direction and encouragement, while treating Ford with cold professionalism. The breaking point came during the infamous love scene. After the 40th take, Ford finally snapped. The argument was so intense, security had to intervene to prevent it becoming physical. Ford allegedly called Scott the biggest pain in the ass I've ever worked with, the cleaned-up version. What he actually said was so explosive it's still under legal protection. A crew member described it as the most brutal character assassination I've ever witnessed. Harrison didn't just attack Ridley's directing, he went after his personality, his ego, his entire approach to filmmaking. Scott's response was equally brutal. He banned Ford from the editing room, excluded him from promotional decisions, and ensured the actor had no input on the final cut. The twisted irony. Their mutual hatred actually improved the film. Ford's cold, detached portrayal of Rick Deckard wasn't just acting, it was his genuine emotional state after months of psychological warfare. The character's isolation and barely contained anger were all real. Blade Runner is now considered one of cinema's greatest achievements, but was literally built on the mutual destruction of two of Hollywood's most talented figures. The Dark Legacy. These 7 stories reveal a systematic pattern of psychological warfare that Ridley Scott has used throughout his career to maintain absolute control. The most disturbing aspect isn't individual incidents, but how the industry protected Scott while allowing these actors to suffer in silence. Hollywood's power structure means directors like Scott can destroy careers with impunity, while actors who speak out are labelled difficult. The Sean Young situation particularly reveals this. Her harassment allegations were ignored while Scott's reputation remained untouched. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to acknowledge. Some of cinema's greatest films were built on psychological destruction of the actors who created them. Blade Runner's dystopian atmosphere was enhanced by genuine misery of its leads. Gladiator's intensity came from Phoenix's real breakdown. The question becomes, is great art worth this level of human suffering? These 7 actors didn't just have bad experiences with a difficult director, they were casualties in Ridley Scott's personal war against anyone who dared challenge his absolute authority. Their stories reveal the dark truth behind Hollywood's glamorous facade. Sometimes, the most beautiful art is built on the ugliest human behavior. We are committed to releasing 2 videos a week. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more film lore.